Oh, these are heart mirrors.
Yes.
The one on the top left looks Tibetan to me, but it could
Yeah.
be Chinese. The one at the bottom is an actual mirror,
Uh,
uh,
yeah.
not a piece of armor.
Yes.
And the one on the top right, I'm not sure, because usually mirrors don't have two supports in the middle,
I
and
think
armor wouldn't
I
have
think
any
these two
supports
are
in it.
mirrors, but this one
Yeah,
is part of the armor.
it's part of one of those kind of Tibetanish Cha'ina armors, which the Mongols
We
used.
saw, we saw the similar one just recently when we talked about that Chinese armor from Musée de l'Armée in Paris.
Yeah, yeah. When you see the really high quality Qing armors, they often have steel plates done this way. Again, in Chinese, it's heart mirror. It's over the center of the chest. It's meant to deflect both weapon strikes and curses and evil, like magical attacks. The mirror thing is particularly anti-demon. Demons don't like mirrors in China, and it's a classic thing. It's got an old, old, old origin. So in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which was written down in the 1400s, they
Yes.
talk about one of the heroes rescuing the son of one of the principal people by undoing the straps of his armor and putting the baby inside the front of the armor, and it's protected by the heart mirror. So, and that's, like that was written down in the 1400s. Possibly the story is much older. So it's really important when we look at these things to realize that they're not just what was made at the time, but they are manifestations of quite old ideas about it. Well, magical protection to one level. You notice that one seems to have hanging buttons.
Yes.
So it was buttoned onto another armor, and almost certainly like that Qing armor we looked at from the Musée
This
de
one,
l'Armée.
right? This one.
Yeah.
I mean, the decoration looks the same as well. It's so almost,
Yeah,
not completely, almost.
but it's this really high grade metalwork that you would expect the
Look at this.
imperial level or general level
Yeah, of
armors would have.
course.
See, that's gilding is beautiful.
Yeah, of course, imperial level.
And you've got to remember that in the Qing dynasty, the Qing actively recruited Mongol banners. So a banner was a army division of I don't know, like a 2-man, like 10,000 men or 1,000 men, right, whatever. And the Qing incorporated Mongol troops into their main armies. They had the Qing 8 banners, and then they had, I think, another 8 Mongol banners, and then they had the Chinese Green Army. This is before they conquered China. They had huge numbers of Chinese soldiers as well, and they were highly regarded. Now, the one on the left is
yes, I have
definitely
it
a
here
mirror.
from the museum. Look at this.
Yeah,
This was the heart mirror for the armor, and now they describe it correctly. Mirrors. They're just simply mirrors. Yes.
yeah. And these are ancient too, in the sense that design, this type of bronze mirror goes back to the Han Dynasty, like 200 BCE. Actually earlier. I'm just being, that's the ones that immediately pop.
These ones, the museum dates them to 13th, 14th century.
I think they were still being produced even after that, because it's a practical design for a mirror. The back, the part we can't see, is highly polished, and the reverse side that we're looking at is highly decorated. There are some really early ones where the way they were cast, the back influences the reflection, so you have a ghost in the reflection of the design on the back. I think the one I saw, it was the character Shan from Mountain.
Yes.
And this is a really long tradition in China and Mongolia. So here we have a bit of lamella.
Yes. A reproduction. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not sure pink would have been a common color for the lacing. Well, I've got some hanging on my bookcase at the moment that I
didn't want to say it, but okay, forget about it. Yeah, well, let's go here.
But it's a very practical type of armor.
Look at this video. Look at this video.
Mhm. Yeah, the lacing at the bottom is just imaginary. Um, what we know from existing armors is that the scales on the sides don't have the same number of holes as the scales in the middle,
Yes.
because every hole is punched by somebody.
Yes.
So if you don't have to put a hole there, you don't. And on the bottom row of scales, it's quite possible, unless they were just taking it out of a bucket of pre-prepared scales, that they wouldn't have any extra holes where they didn't need them. It's, but on the other hand, this is pretty much how they were put together and how they look.
Yes.
There seems to be some oddities in the way that the lacing is done, the vertical lacing, which isn't based on any extant stuff. I think it's just somebody got artistic.
Here
Spears.
we have
Everybody likes spears.
yes, very beautiful ones.
See, these are really, really practical. And they're not, these are purely for stabbing, not for cutting, even though you could cut if you were really desperate. Socketed spearheads, very common in Mongolia. If you look at it, it's kind of like a elongated diamond shape, but look at how thick and how the blade kind of grows out of that socket. It's really strong. I've got an old Chinese spearhead. I'll have to have a look for it. I haven't seen it for ages. And the big difference with the Chinese ones is they often have a forge, like multifaceted polygon type thing at the junction of the socket and the blade, which is, purely decorative, but it looks really nice. These are very, very. I mean, the one on the right is heavily corroded and that, but that happens when you leave things in the ground for a few hundred years. The one on the left is in much better condition, but it just shows. Look at the strong cross section at the base of the blade. This is meant for serious work.
Very sharp tip as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, now here we come. The bow.
One of these wonderful bows. You've got to think in terms. I'm guessing that bow is probably around about 1400, because most of the bows of that type are around about 1400. They are defined by the fact they have quite wide bending sections for the limbs, which produces a much more stable bow. It's not quite as fast as a narrow bow like a Turkish bow, but you can keep it strung for weeks and it'll only lose a few percentage points of its power. And it also adds to the stability of the bow, so it's less like, look, this is twisted. It's been buried for 600 years.
Yes.
And I'm guessing that's probably its original string too, because quite a lot of these bows have been found with their original strings intact. This is such a rare thing in archaeology that it's very hard to explain. When they started digging these up, this only started appearing in archaeological digs in the early 2000s, I think. And the archaeologists were kind of stunned that they had stuff at this level of preservation.
Yeah.
Because some of them, this one, the string is detached in the sense that it's on the wrong side of the bow. It's on the back side of the bow instead of the belly side. But there ones were found where the string was in place. The bow had been buried strung. Maybe some rodents had chewed a bit at the horn and it had flexed oddly. But you have a look. Narrow handle, so we have little deflection on the arrow when you release it. Wide bending limbs, so they're stable. Long, thin ears, gushe, that are strong in triangular cross section. They're not likely to twist or anything like that. And because they're thin and narrow, not much weight at the tips of the bow, so the bow behaves very smoothly when you shoot it. I have seen one of this type of bow up close, like that close. They're beautifully made. I mean, they're covered in birch bark. Sometimes the birch bark is interspersed with dyed pieces of cherry bark and that to make little mosaics and whatever. They're fully practical bows. They look quite, you know, elegant and esoteric, but when you actually look at the real bows, they are very, very practical. Every part of the design is meant to work. They do have a metan, a ridge on the back side of the handle, like later Persian and Turkish bows and crab bows in India. So this is one of the earliest bows that has been found with that feature. Before that, the handles were either round or oval in cross-section, or sometimes square. And this is where you get these old terms in the archery manuals that we've worked on, where they talk, oh, it's a square grip or it's a round grip. They're actually talking about real grips, but that are 200 or 300 years before the manuscript was written, because they're quoting earlier authors. And this is one of those very early examples of that type of grip. And you notice how narrow the grip is compared to the bending sections of the limbs. And that means your arrow doesn't deflect as far. It's much easier to be accurate at long range. And they were really interested in that. The string is quite thick. I don't know if that's the original string, but it does look about the right proportions. The strings they found on these didn't have separate end loops. The loop was knotted in. Not the most efficient way to make them, but still totally functional and very common and used right to the end of the Qing dynasty, particularly on strength bows. You see above it, there is an applique open quiver. This is a fairly famous quiver, I think. Again, I think it's from...
Why don't we talk about the quiver later, please, Pete? I have better pictures.
Yeah. Now look at that.
Yes.
You see, may not be immediately obvious, but if you look at the limbs either side of the hand grip, you can see that the horn was covered by birch bark.
Yes.
It wasn't exposed, which is common in Persian bows, but less common in other areas. It's common in northern India too. The grip is quite narrow.
Yeah.
And but you notice it doesn't. It's the limbs aren't shouldered. They smoothly transition into the grip. It's very obvious to the eye, but if you look at it, that's kind of a rounded transition, not this sharp transition that a lot of modern bows have when they try and duplicate this. And I think that the reason is that when people were using these bows, that smoother transition with a canted bow enabled aiming more easily. You didn't have this, like bump in the sides. That's a really nice bow. Considering, again, I'm guessing that it's around about 1400, 1390, 1410, somewhere in that area. There are bows from the 1700s that are closely related to this. One from Omnagov. You can see...
Bede, look now, you have a better close-up.
Yeah, you can see that different coloured bark covering, that dark brown.
Yeah,
that's probably cherry bark, like amber cherry bark or something like that. The people that made these bows were in an area where they didn't have a lot of trees, but they knew a lot about the different characteristics of tree barks.
Yeah.
And birch bark was traditionally used as a waterproofing material, and this is why these limbs are usually covered in birch bark. But cherry bark was used because of its colour. You don't need to dye it; it is this colour. The tree that's particularly well known for this is the Amur cherry, named after the Amur River in Manchuria. I saw one up close. My friend Dr. Grayson had one growing in his yard, but unfortunately it got to the right size for taking the bark off, because he was going to use it making bows. And the local woodpeckers discovered it. So the whole of the tree was covered in little circular holes where they'd gone looking for insects under the bark and totally ruined the bark. I think he'd been growing it for 30 years. He was not a happy man when
they are so noisy as well. My God, these
Oh
woodpeckers.
yeah, yeah, they're amazing birds. But
Okay.
you can see, there you can see the well, there's two quivers there. There's a closed quiver and an open quiver. That open quiver, it has either 4 or 3 slits for special arrows in the front.
Yeah.
A tradition that is shown on Ilkhanid and early Timurid miniatures in Iraq. You see the same structure. You can see how the base of the quiver is sewn in.
Let me
Normally,
just
a
show
quiver
it.
like this,
Let me just show it. Bede is talking. Why? Okay. Bede is talking about this quiver, and now the base
yeah,
is here. Okay, go ahead, please.
yeah. So my guess is that originally it would have had a wooden base inside the leather because that's the normal way of making them. The fact that there's nothing there now could mean that something ate the wooden base. Or maybe they just used a thick piece of leather.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make a very lightweight quiver. It works. I've got a quiver I made 40 years ago, and it just has a piece of leather sewn in like that, and I've used it with broadheads, I've used it with bodkin points, I've used it on horseback, and it worked perfectly well. But wooden bases are usually much better. The quiver above it is a closed quiver with a wooden frame and probably
Bede, do you
birch bark.
remember we talked about examples on that in Persian miniatures? Not many, but
Oh
some.
yeah, that's so
Yeah.
common in Persian miniatures from
Yeah.
the
You remember?
Ilkhanid through
Yeah.
the Jalayirid into
Yeah.
the early Timurid.
Yes.
They start to disappear in the early Timurid because
Yes.
the difference is the top quiver is perfect for hunting and traveling. It totally protects the arrows.
Yes.
It usually has like a hinge door that will close the opening, so you can be traveling in snow or rain or everything. Your arrows are safe.
Yeah.
But in battle, you had to take out 3 arrows at a time and shoot them in bursts, because whereas you can take an arrow out of that quite easily, it's nowhere near as fast as taking it out of an open quiver that's sitting on your hip pointing backwards.
Of
And
course.
I mean, I recognise that quiver because of the applique patterns on it.
Could you
When it
just,
was
before we go ahead, please be, okay, this was leather, wooden base. Let us just, because, many viewers don't know these things. Could you tell us about the materials used to make the top quiver?
okay. These quivers have a wooden skeleton, so the part of the quiver that's against your body.
Yeah.
And bear in mind that the top part of that quiver, the open part, is sitting on your right hip. There are 2 straps that suspend it from your belt, and you reach down, and the points of the arrows are facing upwards. So you reach in, you can feel the shape of the arrowhead, take out the correct arrowhead for what you're going to shoot at. Now, the inside face of that quiver, the part against your body, is a strip of wood. It's usually tapered and then flares a little bit. And the body of the quiver is usually birch bark folded into a tapering cylinder and stitched together and stitched to that wooden piece. Now, you see on this quiver, it has a number of strips of wood that are attached on the outside. Now,
let me just show it, please. Here, and here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
Yeah, and there's like one's going down each side, but there are 3 on the outside face that come together towards the top of the quiver. Now, if you look at the very famous Dietz album in Berlin, there is a painting of the siege of Baghdad, and all of the people are using quivers like this with those 3 lines. But on a painting, they're just black paint, but in reality, they're strips of wood. Now, the other thing is you see that there's 2 bands that go round the quiver to reinforce it. So this quiver is going to hold its shape. It's kind of oval in cross section, tapering to.
Talk about the top of it. Talk about the top of it.
The top is brilliant because what they've done is they've got the wooden core at the back. They've expanded it out on the sides. Then they've put 2 strips of wood or leather, and then joined them with an arc across the top. That means that even if the quiver has no closing door or anything like that. Riding around, shaking around, the points of the arrows hit that top part. The arrows don't fall out.
Okay, before we go ahead, please, in the open quiver, which is down there, excuse me, I'm asking these questions. I'm just playing one of those member subscribers, right? Just don't be one man who's just asking such questions. You know that. I'm just playing a subscriber who doesn't know, right? So the open quiver, how do I put my arrow inside? Could you just explain?
Okay, so that at a basic level, you've got a folded piece of leather which is sewn to the base of the quiver and then sewn up
Yes.
the side.
Yes.
So that means at the mouth of the quiver, you can just put the arrows in. You put them in point first.
Point first.
And the tail of the arrow with the feathers sticks out. The quiver is worn so the arrows face backwards.
Backwards.
Because if you're on horseback and you want to take an arrow out of your quiver, you can just pull it back like that and put it onto your bow and draw. The other quiver faces forwards, but you're taking the arrow out point first up like that. Wholly different.
You put the knock in first. Is it what you are saying?
In the top one, yeah.
In the top one, yes, in the top.
The bottom one, point first.
Yeah, of course. The bottom one is the typical quiver where we see miniatures where all those nice feathers and plumes are seen.
Yeah. And the thing is that you can have the mouth of the quiver can be divided. It can have little loops across it. These are shown in paintings and surviving quivers to divide the arrows up by their different types of heads, because you would carry several types of arrow in there.
Yes.
And you would select them on the basis of what you're going to shoot at. So, for instance, if you suddenly come upon a group of people that are just wearing clothing and no armor, something like a broadhead would kill them much faster, and that's your point. Your point is to put them out of combat as quickly as possible. If they're wearing armor, you want something that's got an armor-piercing point. So they might be wearing brigandine, or they might be wearing mail, or they might be wearing lamellar. So you would pick the appropriate arrowhead. And the way you would do that is because, like those slits, these are the arrows you're going to shoot first. The arrows you shoot first are the ones you shoot at the longest range. So they're probably lighter, they have narrower points, they're more designed to irritate the enemy. What a lot of people don't think about, and see, that's a very good photograph of that quiver.
Yes,
that's really good.
Oh, so yeah.
You can see the structure. Oh yeah, no, this is beautiful, because this is exactly what's in the miniatures. And
have you ever made one?
I've made one roughly like that. I've bought some timber to make one exactly like this. I've seen a couple of photographs of excavated quivers of this level of detail. This is a really good example if you're a quiver maker. This tells you exactly how it's put together. And
I'm happy Usman made this picture because I knew you were going to love it.
Oh yeah, you'll have to send me a copy, because this is brilliant. Yeah. And you can see how it's fitted together. I mean, to be honest, I think this might be leather rather than birch bark. It looks a bit too thick for birch bark. And it looks like the back.
Pete, look at here, please. Look at here.
Yeah. See, that looks like leather to me. Yeah. So what they've done is they've taken a piece of leather and folded it over and joined it down the outside face of the quiver, and then they've applied that trident-shaped wooden piece on top.
Exactly.
I'm assuming.
Let me show the trident shape, as Bede says. This is the wooden trident shape, as Bede says. Yes.
And this holds the quiver in its proper shape. The back plane of the quiver is a wooden piece on the outside of that folded leather. You see the sides of the opening are just attached either side. So the opening is probably a piece like that, and it's just sewn on and then attached at the back as well. This type of quiver, and you can just see on the side there, you can see a little lobe coming out. That's where one of the straps go, supporting the quiver. This is a really practical quiver for hunting. They were clearly used in warfare. But just think if you've got a selection of broadheads and blunts for hunting, everything from squirrels, rabbits, foxes, marmots, if you're in Mongolia, deer, gazelle, whatever. You've got all your specialized arrowheads, and you can just pick them. You don't even have to look down. You can feel them.
Yeah, you can feel them.
And because that cover is shaped like that, you don't accidentally put your hand down on the points. If you have a look at modern reconstructions and in books where they have fully developed drawings, they often have the arrows sticking up out of the quiver. And this was never done. If you look at the old paintings, it's never done because you would hurt yourself. Here we have a trident standard head.
Yes.
Tridents were quite popular as standard heads in Mongolia, and to this day.
Do you remember those pictures I took myself from another museum? We saw many of them. We discussed them, right?
Yeah. This is a proper thing. The trident may ultimately come from Shiva's trident, because remember that Buddhism came up and that had a lot of Hindu motifs that were brought up with it. The famous giant standards that are kept at the one of the Genghis Khan museums, the 9 white yak tail standards and things like that, which look like kind of a drum with all the yak hair hanging down, and above it there's a big embellished trident. Often they're embellished with gold flames and all kinds of things. This is a real kind of old style banner type.
Yes. Nice.
Yak hair was the preferred hair, though
Yes.
I'm pretty certain horsehair would have been quite acceptable.
Yes.
I mean, you see the Turkish tuk standards where they use different coloured horsehair braided into patterns and things like that. Yes. But this is where it came from. Whether the here we have a saddle.